princess and walked into what looked like an ordinary royal confrontation. But within minutes, it had become something far more serious. What she discovered reportedly connected Camilla's family to an unexpected estate review, heightened palace security, and a series of decisions that had been developing quietly behind closed doors for weeks. But there was one detail that made the situation even more unsettling. And didn't panic. She didn't create a scene. She simply watched. And according to this dramatic account, she may have understood exactly what was happening before almost anyone else in the room did. So what did and see that changed everything? And why did a seemingly private family dispute suddenly become a matter of palace security and royal authority? The answer may reveal that this confrontation was never really about one uncomfortable moment. It may have been the final warning sign of a much bigger conflict already unfolding inside the royal household. Princess Anne stood only a short distance away when Camilla's daughter, Laura Lopez, unexpectedly approached Catherine. Laura was not supposed to be part of the official guest group that afternoon. Yet she had somehow entered the restricted area and moved directly toward the Princess of Wales. The setting could hardly have been more public. The event was focused on rural development and local producers. Guests moved between displays, officials spoke with representatives, and photographers were positioned around the hall. Catherine was speaking with people near one of the stands when Laura appeared behind her. She waited for a pause. Then she stepped forward. Her words were about money, estate decisions, and what she believed had been an intentional insult toward her family. The confrontation was brief, but several people nearby heard it clearly. Catherine did not respond. That silence was important. She did not argue. She did not defend herself. She did not give Laura the reaction that cameras might have been waiting for. Instead, she simply looked at her, then turned around. There was no dramatic outburst from the Princess Royal. She did not raise her voice. She did not accuse anyone. She first adjusted her gloves and stood still for several seconds. The room slowly became quiet. Then Anne asked a simple question. Had security checked the guest list? That question changed the entire situation. Suddenly, the issue was no longer about the accusation Laura had made. The bigger question was how she had entered the restricted area in the first place. And that was something the palace could investigate. An argument can be dismissed as emotion. A security breach cannot be ignored so easily. Laura had come into the room with a grievance. But Anne had shifted attention toward access, procedure, and accountability. Laura then made the situation even more serious. Instead of leaving, she continued speaking. She reportedly suggested that the estate review was being used to damage her family, and claimed that senior royals knew about private discussions involving the Prince of Wales. That statement was loud enough for reporters nearby to hear. Several immediately began taking notes. The moment had changed. What had started as a family complaint had become a public incident involving palace procedure. And there was another detail that made the entire situation more suspicious. A photographer positioned toward the back of the hall had been taking pictures from the moment Laura approached. The photographer had a clear view of Catherine, Laura, and Anne. According to the scenario described in the original account, he did not appear surprised when the confrontation began. He was already positioned correctly. That does not prove that the incident had been planned, but it raised an obvious question. Why was someone already standing in exactly the right place when Laura approached? That question would become much more important later, and eventually signaled to security. An officer approached Laura and asked her to leave the restricted area. The entire confrontation lasted only a few minutes, but the consequences were much larger. The palace began examining how Laura had entered. Security records were reviewed, guest lists were checked, and officials discovered that her access had not come through the normal royal approval process. A local organizer had apparently added an extra name to the guest arrangements. That detail transformed the story, because the palace could now investigate a specific failure instead of simply dealing with a family disagreement. The person responsible for approving the additional access came under scrutiny. And suddenly, the incident was no longer only about Laura. It was about who had helped create the opportunity for her to be there. That distinction mattered. Royal events depend heavily on planning. People are checked before entering restricted areas. Guests are assigned places. Staff know who should be present and who should not. For someone to move directly into an area containing senior members of the royal family suggested that several safeguards had failed. The Prince of Wales was informed soon afterward. William reportedly wanted the unedited footage of the incident rather than only the photographs already circulating. That decision revealed what he wanted to know. He was not simply interested in how the confrontation looked. He wanted to understand what happened before it. Who had entered first? Where had Laura been standing? Who spoke to her? How long had she waited? And when did the photographer begin recording? Those details could show whether the encounter was spontaneous or whether someone had expected it. William's response was reportedly firm. He asked his team how someone who was not part of the approved working list had managed to enter the secured area. The first explanations focused on the outside organization hosting the event. But William wanted more than an explanation. He wanted accountability. That is where the story began moving beyond one afternoon. The palace had already been reviewing relationships between different royal households and outside organizations. The security incident appeared to reveal that informal connections could sometimes bypass official procedures. One connection reportedly involved a member of the administration who had links to someone working within Camilla's household. Again, that does not automatically prove wrongdoing, but in an institution built around rules, even an unexplained connection can become important when a security failure occurs. The review expanded and was also paying attention, while William examined the administrative side and appeared more interested in the estate issue that had triggered Laura's confrontation. For years, she had been known for taking formal procedures seriously. Her approach was simple. Documents mattered, signatures mattered, and responsibilities needed to be clear. The estate review was therefore significant. An audit does not automatically mean that someone has committed a crime. It simply means that financial records are being checked carefully. Money is matched against approved spending. Payments are examined. Contracts are reviewed. And when something cannot immediately be explained, someone has to provide an answer. That was the situation developing behind the scenes. The audit had reportedly reached a stage where questions were beginning to emerge about certain payments and appointments. Nothing about an unexplained payment should automatically be treated as proof of wrongdoing. But the existence of questions can create enormous pressure inside a royal institution. And now, someone had openly mentioned that review in front of reporters. That raised another question. Who knew about it? If the review was supposed to be confidential, how had information about it reached Laura's side of the family? And reportedly wanted the timeline examined, not only the financial records, the communications surrounding them. Who received information? When did they receive it? Who discussed the review? And how did Laura arrive at the event on the exact day when the issue could become public? The answers were not immediately clear, but the pattern was becoming harder to ignore. William's team was conducting its own review. Some communications connected to Camilla's household were reportedly examined because of their timing. Again, communication with lawyers or financial advisors is not evidence of wrongdoing by itself. People seek legal advice for many legitimate reasons. But when legal discussions happen alongside an ongoing audit, palace officials may naturally want to understand whether the two events are connected. William reportedly asked his advisors to examine estate properties and financial arrangements connected to the review. The goal was not to make public accusations. It was to understand what the palace actually controlled and what existed outside its authority. That distinction mattered. Royal institutions have influence, but they do not control every private financial arrangement connected to members of the wider family. Trusts, private accounts, property arrangements, and outside legal structures can all exist separately from the official household. So the investigation had limits. But the palace could control something else. Access, appointments, invitations, official payments, and relationships with the institution itself. That was where the consequences began to appear. William reportedly ordered his team to keep the matter contained while the internal review continued. No unnecessary briefings. No anonymous comments. No attempts to shape the story through friendly journalists. The priority was to establish what had actually happened. Meanwhile, Anne continued examining the estate records. Her approach was different from William's. She was not focused on public relations. She was looking for patterns, appointments, signatures, recommendations, people who had been placed into important positions over several years. The question was whether those appointments had been made through normal procedures, or whether personal relationships had influenced them. Finding a connection would not automatically mean misconduct, but it could show how informal networks had developed around the estate. And that may have been what concerned in most. Institutions can survive individual disagreements. They struggle when informal networks become more powerful than formal rules. That is why the incident at Westminster mattered so much. It appeared to bring several separate issues together: a family grievance, a security failure, a disputed estate review, unexpected access, and questions about who knew what before the confrontation happened. Then came the most emotional part of the story. Laura was reportedly facing the public reaction. The confrontation had generated enormous attention online. People were debating what she had said, why she had approached Catherine, and how she had entered the event. For Laura, the consequences were personal. She had entered the hall believing she was defending her mother. But the public did not necessarily see it that way. They saw a woman approaching the Princess of Wales during an official engagement. They saw cameras recording, and they saw and step in. The difference between intention and appearance became devastating. Laura's family also faced growing pressure over their relationship with the wider royal institution. According to the original scenario, financial arrangements connected to the estate were being reviewed, while some offices and access arrangements were being reconsidered. That did not mean anyone had been found guilty of anything, but it meant that old assumptions could no longer be taken for granted. The most surprising development, however, was Camilla's silence. Laura had expected support. Instead, there was very little visible intervention. No public defense. No dramatic statement. No attempt to immediately reverse the palace's response. For someone who had spent years navigating the complicated world around the monarchy, Camilla would have understood the seriousness of the situation. A public fight would only create more headlines. An angry statement could make the situation worse. And if an audit was still underway, public comments could create legal and institutional complications. Silence may therefore have been less about abandonment and more about containment. Laura reportedly received formal legal advice telling her and other family members to avoid public comments while the situation was being reviewed. That would have been painful, but it also showed how quickly the situation had moved beyond family emotion. The palace was now treating it as an institutional matter. And once an institution becomes involved, personal relationships often stop providing protection. The next major step came when William and Charles discussed the situation directly. William reportedly explained that the incident could not simply be ignored. The security breach had to be addressed. The estate concerns had to be reviewed. And the relationship between Camilla's wider family and official palace business needed clearer boundaries. Charles listened. The scenario suggests that he did not attempt to stop the process. Instead, he allowed William to take responsibility for handling the institutional side. That was significant. For years, Charles had been the central authority, but the situation now showed the next generation taking a more active role in protecting the structure around the monarchy. Anne's involvement added another layer. She had spent decades inside the institution. She understood how quickly a small failure could become a larger problem, and she appeared determined not to allow personal relationships to weaken formal rules. The most important decision eventually involved the future access of Camilla's family to official royal business. A formal internal instruction was prepared. Its purpose was to establish clear boundaries. Members of the wider family would no longer automatically receive access to official events, household invitations, or institutional arrangements simply because of their personal connection to Camilla. That did not mean they were being erased from private family life. It meant the distinction between family and institution was becoming much clearer. Charles reportedly hesitated before approving the final step. That hesitation made sense. He was not simply dealing with paperwork. He was dealing with people connected to his wife. But William's position was different. He had to consider the institution itself, and appeared to believe that protecting the institution required decisive action. The tension between those positions was enormous. Charles wanted to avoid unnecessary damage. William wanted clearer boundaries, and wanted procedures respected. Camilla was caught between her husband, her children, and the institution around them. And Catherine had become the person at the center of the original public confrontation despite not responding to it. Eventually, the formal decision moved forward. The message was simple. Private family relationships could continue, but official royal access would depend on rules, not personal connections. That distinction may have been the real turning point, because the incident was no longer being treated as an isolated confrontation. It had exposed weaknesses in how the wider family interacted with the institution, and William appeared determined to close those gaps. The response also showed something about Anne. She did not need to deliver a dramatic speech. She did not need to publicly attack Laura. She asked one question. How did she get inside? That question opened everything. It moved attention away from emotion and toward evidence, away from accusations and toward records, away from family arguments and toward institutional responsibility. And perhaps that was why the moment became so powerful. And did not win by speaking louder. She won by refusing to argue on Laura's terms. Catherine also played an important role through silence. Had she responded emotionally, the story could have become a direct conflict between two royal women. Instead, she gave the cameras almost nothing. That made it difficult to turn the encounter into a two-sided argument. And then redirected the issue to security. William redirected it to accountability. Charles ultimately allowed the institution to respond, and Camilla was left facing the reality that personal influence had limits. The entire episode therefore became bigger than one confrontation. It became a story about boundaries. Where does family end and the institution begin? How much influence should relatives have? What happens when private grievances enter a public royal setting? And who is responsible when official procedures fail? Those questions are likely to remain more important than the original words spoken in that hall. Because words disappear. Records remain. Guest lists remain. Access logs remain. Documents remain. And in a palace built on centuries of tradition, those things can become far more powerful than any public argument. The final image is perhaps the quietest one. William standing inside the palace after the decisions had been made. The security review was underway. The estate questions remained unresolved. The boundaries around Camilla's family had become clearer. And Anne had said very little publicly. Yet the institution had changed. Not through one dramatic announcement, but through a series of small decisions that gradually removed the informal access that had once seemed normal. Camilla's family entered the story through a public confrontation, but they were pushed out of the official structure through quiet paperwork. That difference changed everything. And did not create the incident, but she quickly understood the real issue. How had someone entered a protected royal event in the first place? William asked the same question, and what followed was a deeper review of security, estate records, access, and family connections. Catherine stayed calm and defended the rules, and William showed that the institution would no longer depend on informal relationships. No shouting was needed. One name disappeared from a list, one access point was closed, and one document changed the balance of power. Sometimes royal power does not arrive with a dramatic announcement. Sometimes it begins with one simple question. How did she get in? That question started everything, and the consequences could last for years.